All right, we're live with Army veteran Nick Richardson. Spent 4 years in the United States Army. Met him through Facebook. Asked him to come on the podcast. He agreed, and I appreciate you coming on, brother. Taking time out of your day means the world to me. First, I want to do a shout out to my sponsor, Fab CBD. There'll be a link in the description. Code name Steel to get 15 or 20% off. I'm not really sure, but they do a promo every month. So click on that link. It's a great product. I use it every night to go to sleep. And I want to thank them for their support. So Nick, I want to do a little background on you and, how you grew up, where you grew up, and what intrigued you to join the military.
So I grew up in Spokane, Washington, which, when you say you're from Washington State, even now people say DC, which they don't realize one's a state and one's not obviously. And then Grandpa was a Navy vet. He was in between, the Korean War and Vietnam War era. So he never really saw any action or did anything other than sea duty, but he, always had these great stories growing up about taking the gondola ride around, I think it was Mount Vesuvius in Italy and all the different countries he got to visit. So it kind of sparked me about 6, 7 years old to go in the military. And, truthfully, I like swimming, but I'm not a fan of being out in the middle of nowhere where your nearest island might be, days away. So Navy was kind of ruled out in an early phase of my life, but Army, Air Force, Marines were kind of the way I was thinking, and almost went Air Force. Actually, the recruiter was Air Combat Controller, and I wanted to do something high speed at that point in my life. But the Air Force was drawn down, and he said, truthfully, if you want to stay in 20, which was the plan originally, if you pick this badass high speed job and then all of a sudden we need to draw down, it's take a normal desk job or wherever they put you or get out. So I ruled out the Air Force, and it came down to, the Army and the Marines. And originally I was going to sign up infantry with an airborne option and then go to, RIP school and all the pre-ranger stuff. And I tore my knee wrestling my sophomore year, and the Army said, nah, tough shit, you're not going that route either. So either commission or take combat arms and work your way back that way. I took artillery because it, grew up in the country, and, blowing stuff up with a giant damn cannon seemed like a fun job for an 18-year-old. So that's kind of the route I went. Absolutely.
Sounds badass to me.
Well, it wasn't as badass as some of the other options, but
yeah, absolutely.
Definitely a fun time. And that's kind of growing up the way I did. Stepdad was Air Force, Grandpa was Navy. There's others throughout my family history that were in the military. I think dating all the way back to the Civil War. I don't have the family Bible, so I can't say 100% on that, but I believe so.
Yeah.
So that's just, kind of what's in my blood. So that's what I did.
Absolutely. What year did you enlist?
99. So I was a pre 9/11 guy.
Yeah, me too. And best thing I ever did. And so when you signed up, how was that whole experience going to recruiter? And did he lie to you, or did he shoot you straight up, or did he shoot you shit?
It was definitely hump day, and I was a victim, if you get what I'm saying on that. They didn't tell me everything straight. My original recruiter actually got kicked off recruiting duty because he got in a DV incident involving booze and all that deal, and forgot to tell the Army I tore my knee, so I got investigated by a major that came up from Seattle, and almost didn't go in because it pissed me off. They act like I was lying about my knee injury, and it was in my records. He just didn't divulge it because he was trying to make a quota.
Yeah.
I had to go through a lot more extra BS, but, it led to me going in, and it was a fun time.
Yeah. So how was your, I'd like to talk to a lot of people about how their basic training experience was. Was you a standout? Did you try to lay low key, or was you that guy that they were just on? Like once you got noticed, they were in your shit. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, I think one thing too I want to bring up before I get to that, a lot of people hear about the cattle car experience, how they drive us around and get us disorientated in a blacked out, horse trailer, cattle trailer, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if they still do that, but that was a fun thing getting off there and getting yelled at by all the drill sergeants, that you thought had little man syndrome at the time. So that was a fun way to start. But I was kind of in the middle. I mean, I was good at some things and not so good at others. I'm not a runner. I can run distance fine, but I'm not going to run it fast. Push up, sit ups, I was good at. Hand to hand, I was great at because I come from a wrestling background. Shooting, I was a sharpshooter to expert my whole time in, so that was fine. It was just more of the tedious stuff. Like I still to this day, I'm not a fan of DNC. Drill and ceremony. I thought that sucked. I have a mouth on me. I'm not going to lie. You've probably seen it on social media a little bit, but so I was kind of in the middle. Sometimes drill sergeant loved to make me push and do all the extra stuff, and other times I was smart enough to shut the hell up and just take a nap. So
Yeah.
it's kind of in the middle on both of those.
Yeah. I was quiet for a while, and then they learned my name, and then it was hell from there on, boy. Woo.
They had a hard on for you, as they'd say, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of them.
There we go. It's fun time. So
Yeah, I've actually linked back up with my drill sergeants on Facebook, and it's kind of a funny story because I never thought that they'd ever talk to me because, excuse me. And they were like, "What's up, brother?" And I'm like, "Damn, I thought they was gonna call me a booger eater." You know what I mean? Like,
nice.
you know how that shit goes. But they were real cool, and I'm glad I've got to link back up with them. They're high speed dudes. So, once you left basic, you went to Germany, correct?
No, I actually, because I'm from Spokane, Washington, and literally I was the only one there at the time from Spokane, I got to do hometown recruiting.
Oh, really?
So I got 30 days free leave to go home and try and talk my high school classmates into why they should join the army. And yeah, I wasn't very good at that part of it, but so I got sent home 2 weeks early. I got to, obviously still get the free leave and check in, but they're like, yeah, bro, you suck. You're hurting our numbers. Get the hell off hometown recruiting. And the station commander didn't like me. He was a supply guy. So, no offense to supply guys and gals out there, but, I was going to be the king of battle, as we're called in artillery, and he didn't really like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, he threatened me with Article 15s and all those fun things that I didn't know what they were at the time. And yeah, so I spent my last 2 weeks at home with the girlfriend I had at the time and enjoyed life before going to Germany.
Sure, it was a good time. So you leave to go to Germany. Have you ever been out of America before that?
Once.
Oh, so it wasn't like traumatizing, like, because for me, when I got orders to go to Korea, I thought I was going to some dark place that I had no clue where I was going. It scared the hell out of me. So
Well,
wasn't that experience?
I went to Canada before that for a ski trip. So I mean, it's not. Sorry, my damn phone keeps falling.
It's all right.
Um, not the same thing. Going to hang out with some hot Canadian chicks on a ski trip versus overseas. But yeah, I went to Canada prior. So yeah, it wasn't traumatizing until I got to Germany and no one spoke English. Scared the shit out of me, to be honest.
How was that whole experience? The drinking beer. How was the beers over there?
The beer was good. Our first sergeant told us, this beer is stronger than American beer, so don't go over there and think you're gonna drink a sixer and walk straight the first few times you do it. And, me growing up in the country, I thought, what, challenge accepted. I damn sure tried, and he was right. So it was, yeah,
So
definitely different.
great experience in Germany, huh?
Oh, I loved it. I mean, I ended up, instead of PCSing halfway through my tour, I ended up signing to stay there. And shortly thereafter, I met my wife. We've been married almost 20 years. She's German. I learned the language,
Really?
which I had hoped I would prior to going in, because that was part of my enlistment. I signed specifically to go to Germany. But
Mhm.
my grandma, who was German, who met my grandfather on my mom's side, who was Army Air Corps before it became the Air Force. She actually didn't want us learning German because she was ashamed of the culture, based on what it was and that sort of thing. So she didn't teach us any German at all. So I went over there and I'm like, okay, great. I had failed out of Spanish in high school. I wasn't interested, not saying there wasn't motivation to learn it. It was just, the teacher was an a-hole and I didn't like it. So I thought, you know what? I'm not going to be able to learn German either. This is going to suck. And I did learn it in 6 months because, I happened to meet a hot lady, which was my wife, and kind of inspired me to learn it. And I learned it, stayed over there for my whole 4 years with the exception of the Kosovo deployment after 9/11. Then I got out because, I couldn't balance family and work right. And she didn't really like me being in, and I wanted to switch jobs. She didn't want to go stateside. So I was like, you know what, this is it. I'm calling it. And then worked on post at AFES and then did some DoD stuff as an armed security supervisor running that. So yeah, I love Germany. It was a good time. The fest. I don't know if you've ever been to their beer festivals. There's nothing like it.
No, I haven't. I only went to Frankfurt, but it was a short stay. Obviously, from when I went from Kuwait to Germany, then to no, yeah, I think it was, or we came back and landed in Frankfurt. But we were only there for I think a couple hours, so I didn't really even get to experience anything. You know what I mean? I was ready to get home. But while you're in Germany, a lot of field problems and stuff, or I know it's cold
Oh
as hell
yeah,
there.
yeah. It was so cold. Frosty the Snowman lost more than his nose. If you get what I'm saying. I mean, it was hell. I mean, we originally we were going to this place called Vilflicken, which a lot of guys nicknamed Wild Chicken because it's kind of spelled that way.
Yeah.
But it's up in the Bavarian Alps, and it's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. It's a German post, but we train with them. We had this first sergeant that had been in Germany 90% of his career, and
Wow.
wanted to break us in rough, and we got the furthest track park from the barracks possible. So we were walking literally up to our waist in snow with a duffel on the front, duffel on the back, and going to these old barracks that were looking like a homeless shelter and barely warm enough to even take your boots off.
Wow.
So that was my first field exercise, and I was like, Jesus, what in the hell did I volunteer for?
Did y'all stay in GP mediums or anything with the pot bellies in there?
Yeah, that was in Hohensfeld and Grafenbeer, which are, again, another lovely place. In summer, they're hotter than shit, and in wintertime, they're cold, like I just said. So,
Yeah.
yeah, they're not fun. And, it's kind of hard to sneak any booze in your canteen to stay warm. So that was not a fun time. Even for a guy that's, from the Northwest and used to the cold, yeah. There's a reason our special forces use civilian gear to stay warm in the mountains because the military gear, I don't care who you are, other than the Mickey Mouse boots, everything else is pretty much crap.
Yeah, we got issued the Mickey Mouse boots in Korea, and I'm gonna tell you, man, them things. Korea gets cold, and I'll be honest with you, my feet were freaking cold in them. But they were. I felt like I was wearing Ronald McDonald shoes every time I put them on. You know what I mean?
Needed to squeeze the red nose there, huh?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Germany's a good time. A lot of field training exercises. I was over there during that foot and mouth thing, which those of us that know the farm life know that it was nothing more than, two different bacterias from soil, but they pretty much shut everything down as far as you're not allowed to eat on the local economy. You're not allowed to do this. Don't eat this. Don't do this. So a bunch of us, I remember one time right afterwards, went to a local restaurant and got a big ass fat hamburger. Showed up to formation. Our captain about, shit himself when he saw that. And,
Oh,
what
I'm
are you
sure.
doing? I told you not to. And I said, it's a burger, man. It'll be fine. And if I
Yeah.
die, who cares? You don't like me anyway.
Yeah.
But but yeah, so I was there during that, and then 9/11, of course, that happened while I was over there, and we were getting married the following month, and I remember walking by. I think it was on a Tuesday. I could be wrong, but whatever the hell day it happened on, we were walking by this guy in the barracks room, and there was a bunch of sergeants and everyone getting ready for final formation. And I saw the first plane hit, and I didn't realize it was on the news. And I literally, no joke, thought it was some movie because it was the new movies came out at the PX. And I said, "What movie is this?" And he goes, "It's not a movie. A plane just hit a tower." And I'm like, "Okay, maybe it's in Africa or somewhere else in Europe." So I didn't think nothing of it, kept walking, and everyone was buzzing around this room. And I went back and saw the second one hit, and then I saw New York flash across the screen, and I was like, "Oh shit." So I
Here
called
we
my
go.
wife. Yeah, and I told her, I said, "We're not married yet, so they're probably not going to allow me to come home off post tonight, and I don't know how long it's going to be. Just so you know." And yeah, so that was that. It was about 4 days later, and I was allowed to go back off post. Had to rebuy all of my stuff because everything was at her place, which was another fun experience. And then, we were hoping we'd deploy some damn where because we got sick and tired of guard duty every day. Then they
Yep.
told us we're going to Kosovo, and I'm like, where in the hell is Kosovo?
Yeah.
Uh, And I mean, I had to look it up and realize the history there. And I'm like, kind of a history buff kind of guy. So I said, okay, this might be kind of cool. And we couldn't go to Afghanistan because we were heavy artillery, and the light units are the ones that can put in with the choppers. So
Yeah.
that's why we got tasked for Kosovo, and that was a whole experience in itself.
Yeah. If you could talk about it, I've never been.
So it's weird because even all these years later, because I was over there in '02, but all these years later, when I'm at a VFW or I'm doing events and people say, "Where'd you deploy at?" and I tell them, they're like, "Where in the hell is that?" And when you really look it up, Macedonia, Alexander the Great, all this history there, it's pretty cool to think about. But when you go over there, it's a beautiful country. But back then it was ran down. Camp Bond still wasn't as built up as it is now. It was different because we were artillery, and they're like, "Well, look, you're not going to be blowing stuff up, so you guys are infantry." And we're like, "Great, this is going to suck." There's a reason I ended up not going infantry. And a lot of times we do two 16-kilometer patrols, full gear, which, as you know, is about 100 plus pounds.
Yeah.
And then me being a big guy, I ended up having to carry the Singar, the rain gear, flares, all that other BS. And then we'd go through these, mountainous paths and down through the towns. And, there was areas where mines weren't cleared. Luckily, we didn't find any with our feet, but, stuff like that. And then learning how to work with the interpreter, which none of us really knew how to do at the time. So that was a different experience. And then, just what you saw, buildings looking like someone took a scalpel and cut them perfectly in half from the war, and impact craters and different roads, and seeing how impoverished they were. It was one of those times where you're like, dang, I'm glad I'm an American, and,
Yeah. Absolutely.
it taught you a lot, and it was, it was a whole different experience. I mean, it's a lot to talk about even in one show.
Yo, I can only imagine. We were actually tasked to go there. I think it was 2001 or 2002. I can't remember. It was going to be a 6-month deployment, and I ended up coming down on orders to go to Korea. And I think some of the battalion went. I'm not sure. I cannot remember. It's been so damn long ago. But I was thinking, where the hell is Kosovo? Like you said, where the hell is this? You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I ended up going to Korea, and it was a damn good time.
Yeah, I heard stories about Korea. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're all true. I promise.
All right, that's good to know.
But yeah, so you did your 6 months in Kosovo?
Yeah, and that was another thing. So I found out literally about a week before I was going. My wife's like, "Hey, I'm pregnant with our first kid," and I'm like, "Hell yeah, awesome." I'm like, "Wait, I'm going to Kosovo. What the hell?" And back then, they actually practiced OPSEC, not like now where everyone writes on Facebook, "Hey, I'm going to Iraq, Afghanistan, or wherever," right? Back then, you weren't even allowed to tell anyone outside your household. It was shut up, don't talk about it. And
Yep.
I'm like, great. So I got my first kid coming. Then on top of that, I can't tell anyone about Kosovo. And I know damn good and well if I call home and don't sound super excited about the first kid because of what's coming along with it, they're going to know something's up. So I'm like, shit, this sucks. And then, our safety briefing, of course, the captain went and did, recon and got information on Kosovo, and his briefing he gave us wasn't worth a shit. I mean, it wasn't like, hey, we're going to be doing this and this. It was like, hey, we're going to be doing this and this from A to Z. And I don't know who's going where and who's doing what. And I'm like, God, this is going to suck. I hope I don't get killed, because it wasn't as organized as you would expect.
Yeah, absolutely. Was there any engagement over there at all?
No, I mean, a couple of us saw some Serbian soldiers, but, as soon as they saw us, they lowered their weapons and, stuff like that. But and there was a couple times where we went areas we weren't supposed to go because they had hard boundary lines and they had administrative boundary lines. And if you crossed the administrative, supposedly that was a no go, and it happened a few times. We had one lieutenant, that old saying, lost like a lieutenant during land nav. Well, I experienced that firsthand. He bought a civilian GPS, and yeah, he almost drove us somewhere we weren't supposed to drive, if you know what I'm saying. And yeah, so we didn't see a lot of the quote enemy, which was the Serbians, even though it turned halfway through, it turned to peacekeeping. So basically, we went from thinking, oh shit, rotate that selector switch to, all right, wear soft caps on the checkpoint and keep the Russians from harassing the Albanians and, don't harass the Serbians kind of thing. So it went from one to the other, which is a weird mindset to go through anyway. So
Yeah. That's cool, man. So you spent your six months there, and then did you get out as soon as you got back from Kosovo?
a few months later, I got out. They wanted me to promote to E5, and I turned it down. And because I was like, I'm getting out. What the hell's the point? That's kind of, disrespectful to take a slot from someone staying in.
Yeah.
And then once that happened, the first sergeant we had at the time, because I switched from what we call the gun line to the service battery to where I went to ammo platoon because I was getting out. And they're like, fuck you, you don't deserve to be on the gun line. You can go to ammo platoon. And that first sergeant came from NTC, out in California being an OC. So you know how those guys are.
Yeah.
And that guy tried to write me up in Article 15 me until the day I got out. And it sucked because like halfway through our Kosovo deployment, we got, Sergeant Major of the Army Grinston was actually my first sergeant back then. And I knew what a great leader he was. But by the time he came along, I was already kind of ready to hang it up. I was like, if he would have came along earlier in my career, I probably would have done 20 because that guy made you want to do your job. He was just so, so hula and gung ho. And he was like a walking, talking real life G.I. Joe. So,
Yeah.
you go from that to, okay, now you're in service platoon doing ammo, and then you get a shitty first sergeant. So it was the last 6 months I was in, it was, oh my God, put in your mouthpiece and tighten your chin strap and hang on is what it was like.
Yeah, I can imagine. You remember Sergeant Major Jack Tilley of the Army?
Yeah, I met him at the Chow Hall. And God, where the heck was it? Oh man, I don't know. Somewhere in Germany, one of the field exercises.
So I linked up with him, and I'm trying to get him on a podcast. Actually, be a pretty cool one, I think.
Yeah, he was Sergeant Major. God, I want to say my first 2 years I was in, something like that.
Yeah.
And then Sergeant Major Beam, he just died recently. I saw, but I remember I met him right after 9/11. He was inspecting our guard mount on post, when we were doing all that guard duty, and that dude came through, and he was jacked. I mean, that dude was built like a bulldog, and
Yeah.
I never really knew him, but I knew who he was. And it's just weird how small this circle is when you get out, like you get out and have a beer with the general and you're like, whoa, wait, is this supposed to happen?
Yeah.
You know?
It feels weird, man, because inside the military, that's a big no. It's it's as wrong can be. You don't even talk to generals, really. You know what I mean? You're just saluting them, and then to go
Yeah.
have a beer with one's like, damn, is this really happening?
Yeah. I mean, one of my good buddies is a retired one star, and of course, he's more polished around the edges than I am for obvious reasons. But I mean, if I have a question about something, if I'm like, "Hey, am I reading this right, or am I just being me?" And he's like, "No, you're not being you. You're right, but be careful how you approach it." So it's kind of cool to have those type of people in your corner giving you advice.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree because it's always have them people to be like, hey, be a little easy over here or watch it over there because you never know who's listening. You know what I mean? And I don't have a filter at all. And I'll be honest with you. And thank God my wife tells me to. Sometimes I listen, sometimes I don't. But I I have a bad problem of saying what's on my chest, and sometimes it's not good. And sometimes I know I shouldn't blurt it out, but I do it anyway, like a dumbass. But it is who we are. You know what I mean?
I'm the same way. I try and curb it. It's different. How do I say it? Like when you run a nonprofit, for example, like I do, that you founded, you got to watch what you say, because even though you may believe one way politically or patriotically or whatever, you got to watch the words you use. And then, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, so there's a lot of words that we use then that are offensive. One of the more mild ones is the word retard, right? Like I didn't know, I thought it was a nicer way of saying dipshit, or, in the military, we like to use the word fucktard, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought, I never knew it was a bad thing until I became a civilian. And about a few years ago, I had this coworker who had a kid with special needs, and I said it, and he heard it. That dude came unglued, and I'm like, whoa, calm down there, Mighty Mouse. What's the deal? And I didn't know what the hell was wrong. So I try and avoid using that, and I try and be as PC as I can, but it's tough.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I got to start, especially having kids. You got to watch. Yeah, I'm always using them military slang words, and everybody's like, "What the like?"
Yeah,
We'll talk offline about some of them. I don't want to probably say them
yeah.
on here, but yeah, you run some. Let's go into some of your stuff you're doing since you got out of the military. Is a really cool deal. I watch a lot of it on Facebook, and I think you're doing an amazing job at what you're doing.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So I got out. I did 6 years of college back to back. When I came back stateside after all my DOD stuff around '06, I started going to school. I wanted to do criminal justice. So I did 6 years of college back to back, got my master's. My foot injury I got while I was in, and that's a whole nother conversation. But basically, I got my foot crushed by our ammo carrier, so 30 plus tons ran it
Ugh.
over. And I wasn't a good runner anyway, and now I'm like, trying to win the Daytona 500 with three flat tires, basically. But anyway, so I did that, and then it was around 2012 when I finished the masters, and jobs were just dead. Nothing was there. That was, I believe, it was Obama's second term. Nothing was really popping, and my mom and stepdad moved to Missouri to the Boot Hill down around Sykeston area. So they're like, "Hey, move down here. The prison's hiring. Our neighbor can get you on." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." So that's what I did. But prior to that, I had gone through a 2 year period of unemployment, depression. The wife wanted to try for a girl. I'm like, wait a minute, there's no boy girl switch down here. It doesn't just work like that. And then, of course, some of us are snipers when it comes to the baby thing, and some of us are sharpshooters, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we ended up having a girl, and she kind of flipped my switch right. And I'm like, okay, there's no programs out here for vets really, other than here's a food voucher, go, piss off. So I thought, what helped me kind of pull through that is working out, working with the dog, fellowship with vets, music, reading material that talk about similar experiences and those sort of things. So I was like, this would be a cool idea for a nonprofit, even though I didn't really fully understand what a nonprofit was at the time. So I kind of shelved it. And then we came back from Missouri and jobs were still tough. And 2015, July 2015, I started this because even the county vet services at the time were nothing more than psychological counseling, minimal employment help, and then food and gas vouchers. That's all that was there. So I was like, I need to launch this now. My job's only part time right now. I got the time. Let's do it. So then I started developing what became Greater Veterans. And ultimately, what we want to do, we're miles away from it still after almost 6 years of doing it. But ultimately, we want to build a center called the EVAC Center, Every Veterans Assistance Center. And also because EVAC to us military types means getting out of a bad situation into a good one. So it's kind of a double-edged sword that way. But we want to have like a cafe, bistro, lounge rack, auditorium for concerts, meals, guest speakers, whatever, a gym, and then, just kind of an internet cafe, employment search kind of area, and make it accessible to the veteran and their family. Because to us, when we serve, you lose your battle buddies, but then your family kind of takes up that need a lot. So if they don't know what you're going through, they're not going to help you. But at the same time, the best person to help a veteran is another veteran. So if we put that all under one roof, it's like a VFW on steroids. The problem is it's going to take a ton of money to get it going.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we since then we try and bring up at least one veteran guest speaker. A lot of times politicians want to talk about veteran issues, so we give them the stage too, because I think it's important that the populace is informed on what's going on in terms of veteran legislation. So we work that into the show a lot. And then we try and bring up musicians, because I figure, if we're on Vet Island, when we get out and say you hear a certain song and you're at one of my events and you get to talking to so-and-so and find out that you had a mutual friend either you served with or you went to high school with, and all of a sudden this bridge is being built and you're off Vet Island, you're kind of building that bridge to come back home. And it helps with the reintegration process and everything else. So that's why we use the music, because it keeps people there, keeps people talking, and it works.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And what's the name of some of the singers? Or is it just like local singers, or you got any big on there yet?
Everything. Yeah, I mean, we've had Rick Huckabee, who wrote Muddy Water for Trace Atkins, is probably the biggest name we've booked personally. Sailor Jerry, who did Veterans Hallelujah, who's a Navy vet, she's played for us. We got Farm Jam coming up Labor Day weekend. Drake White's headlining that. We got Scooter Brown Band booked for that. We didn't book him, but we recommended they book him, so they did. So Scooter Brown's a good guy. Marine vet. Who else? I'm trying to think. We've booked a lot of local guys that are vets. One of them, Jesse Quant, Quandt.
Mm-hmm.
He's an Army combat veteran. I believe he did 1 or 2 tours in Iraq, but he's open for like Ned Ledoux, who's Chris Ledoux's son, Low Cash, bunch of different names. So he's played for us a few times. He'll be playing again. July, we got Amelia Presley, who's related to Elvis. She's a Coast Guard vet. We've worked at events and been a part of events with like Dave Bray, Adam Martin from Blackbird Anthem. So yeah, we try and focus more on veteran artists, but we book non-veteran artists, especially regionally and locally as well. So, and we got quite a few others we want to work with. It's just not always convenient, either budget wise or, I don't know if you've ever booked bands, but how NASCAR is, you have your set dates and then you fill in events accordingly.
Yeah. Do you have a website that you can talk about if anybody?
Yeah.
That way, if they click on it and they want to donate, they can donate to your cause and try to help promote this thing, man.
Yeah, it's greaterveterans.com right now. It's GR8TER veterans.com. It's switching to .org soon. We have a soon to be retiring Army captain that's redesigning that. She's starting a business doing website design, and marketing and all that. So she's a good friend of ours out of, I think she's in Nebraska right now.
Okay.
But she wants to do this, and she's like, "Look, I'll do it for free if you can give me a platform and the opportunity." And I'm like, "Hell yeah, why not?
That's
If I can
awesome, man.
help you and you can help us." So I mean, we try and we have our core missions and our core things we work on. Uh, so I try and stick to those as much as possible. Like I don't do anything with housing. I'll refer someone, but housing's got too much liability. I mean, if I refer you to a landlord and that smoke detector goes bad and someone burns up in the fire, that's, a whole bunch of liability my way. So
Yeah.
I'm not I'm not a building inspector, so that's one example of something I stay off of. I'm not a trained counselor. I listen and I'll offer my insight and my thoughts, and they're based on what I know, my experience, and what I've read and heard. But I mean, I'm not going to be the best. I have had vets call me at 2 in the morning that were suicidal that I've talked down before, and I'm sure the VA would be all sorts of pissed off with the way I did it. But results are results, right?
They're still here, ain't they?
That's what I'm saying. And so, I mean, I'm like you. I'm a straight shooter. I don't always say, the right thing or the textbook answer, but I'll get the job done, roll up my sleeves, and
Yeah, we're
that's what
not
I'm
always
about.
politically correct.
No, and I mean that's I've done stuff that some of the local politicians and some of the local citizens don't like. Like I believe it was 2018. I had Sheriff Joe Pyle come into town, and I'm talking about a little bit more in my book that I'm writing. But basically, as soon as he announced Sunday night, Monday afternoon when I got home from work, my job was trying to fire me. The press was blowing up my phone. Half the local people wanted to kill me. The other half wanted to praise me. And we ended up, canceling the event because at the time the political climate was too hot. And, it's unfortunate, but, it is what it is. And, I don't always get everything right. So that's one instance where I was going to work with a quote wrong person according to society, even though.
It happens, man. You can't please everybody, and it's taken me a while to realize that you can please 10. If you have 10 people, you can please 8 of them, but 2 of them ain't never going to be pleased. You know what I mean? And that's everything we do, anything we do in life. So, you just got to be able to take the good and bad. And, like I said, I watch all your Facebook lives and all your posts, and I think what you're doing is amazing. And hopefully, this thing will grow and people will donate to your cause, because I think it's amazing. There's not enough stuff that people are doing for veterans that I feel. I'm joining the VFW. I talked to some gentlemen yesterday, and I can't wait to join and be a part of that group, because it makes you feel like you're home again. You know what I mean? Feels like you're a part of something, part of the military again, a brotherhood, something. And I think what you're doing is amazing, and it'll get bigger, man. Don't give up on what you're doing. You know what I'm saying?
No, and I try not to. It's tough because for me, I'm one of those guys, I hide it more than I should, but I have a big heart and I don't like to put it out there too much in an obvious sense. Like, I'm one of those guys where when I start getting inundated with compliments, it kind of has the reverse effect. It shuts me down because I don't feel like I've done enough yet and I'm still hungry to do more. So it's like I haven't got where I need to be or where I feel like I should be. So it kind of stabs me more than it massages my shoulders and says, go forward. It's
Yeah.
weird, I know, but it's true. But at
Oh
the
yeah.
same time, I remember those, on those dark days when I'm like, fuck, I should quit and everything else. I remember those because then they push me forward again. So it's like kind of weird the way my mind works that way. But we do a lot of giving back. I mean, prior to this pandemic here going on, we did I think we did 4 of them so far, but we did every Christmas. We would either work with a local artist or bring someone up and do a free Christmas party for our local VFW and raise money for them because again, they have a hard time keeping their doors open too. It's not like they're running a bar where there's a bunch of good-looking gals running into and all the guys are running in after them, spending money left and right. It's not an actual bar, and because it's not, they have a hard time keeping their doors open.
Yeah.
So, several years ago, we decided we'll do a Christmas party free of charge. Everyone in the general areas invited, kid friendly till 9 o'clock, and we did those. And we had one not last year, but the year before. We had a guy who's playing for us again named Jack Yoder, Yoder. Real talented musician. He came up, he played for us for free just to help us out in the VFW, and he's not a vet. We had a friend of ours who's a local mall Santa come up, and it was one of the coolest experiences because my daughter, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks prior at a local nursery, saw that Santa with some real life reindeer. And then she saw him at my Christmas party having a beer and talking to me. So she legit to this day at 7 years old thinks daddy knows Santa.
That's cool,
So
man.
yeah, and there's a picture of her sitting on his lap that my photographer got. And every time I see that picture, like I tear up because it's such a special moment for me and my family. And that's the cool part of this is you're so busy helping everyone else out. Sometimes something little happens like that and it helps you. So it's kind of cool in a weird sort of way.
Yeah, I agree. Well, man, I know we said we're going to keep it kind of been on here 41 minutes so far. I know you got stuff to do. Man, I really, truly appreciate you coming on, taking the time to share your story, share what you got going on with the community. And I hope to God people come together and help out your cause, help out veterans. Go to your website. I know you said it's being updated. Please go and help this gentleman. I watch his Facebook posts, like I said, and he's doing great things. And man, I really appreciate you, Nick, coming on. Can't thank you enough spending you're halfway across America, taking the time out to be on my podcast. And I can't thank you enough, brother.
I appreciate it. And I appreciate all you do too.
Appreciate it, man. And like I said, I'll get you one of these made for coming on the podcast. I'll get your, it's basically I don't know what the hell you call it. It's got my podcast logo on it, and it's kind of like one of them Yeti deals, but it's not Yeti. It's just as good, but the company that makes
I
it,
like it, man.
Yeah, and it's just small thanks, but I appreciate it, and I'll have when we get off, I'll send you a message and then get your email or I'll get your address and I'll have one sent to you.
I appreciate it, brother. And when we get more shirts made, I'll get one your way too.
I appreciate it, man. And like I said, send me your link of your deal and I'll share it. I actually work at the VA in Durham, and I'll try to promote that thing as much as I can for you.
I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, man. Well, you have a good rest of your day. God bless you, man. And thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Take care, brother.
You too.